Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Man's No Bull Beer Reviews. Today I have another beer from Resident Culture Brewing Company out of Charlotte, North Carolina. This beer is called Lonely Universe. You can see there it's Imperial Stout. But it is an Imperial Stout with toasted coconut and cacao nibs. And it is 11% ABV. There's been talk in the different Charlotte groups I'm in about, there's not a lot of breweries around Charlotte that are doing like really good big stouts. So people have definitely been clamoring for that to happen here, and these guys are my favorite brewery in Charlotte. So I was hoping once, because I knew they were going to try to get into this. I was hoping once they once they actually released something that it was going to be really good. So they had a release of this. I think it was 2 weeks ago now, and I grabbed half a case of it, and now I wish I grabbed more for how good it was, to be honest. But I haven't had it since I had it on tap there, so I'm just do this review. I'm assuming the can is just as good, but I was really excited for this, and rightfully so. And the funny thing about this can too is they had this on tap at the brewery, and if you see, there's like this. It's not a circle; it's an oval, but it looks like someone just quickly circled around it. They had that on the tap list like that, and I thought it was just circled for them, to try to say, hey, this is the beer that you're here for, this one here. I didn't realize that this circle was around the words on the label, which is funny. But anyways, yeah, it's definitely a new realm for these guys. Everything I've done on here, I believe, has been IPAs, like lagers / pilsners, and wild stuff, like kettle sours and like true wild stuff. So it's definitely a new direction for these guys. So I can't wait to crack this open. And I will say I did let this warm up a little bit. It's definitely not like complete like to the absolute warmest that I generally like it, but because I like to let it change. I like to get the different flavors from when it's colder. I never want it served like really cold, but I like to see how the beer changes over not time, because it's obviously you're only over half an hour to an hour, but just change with temperature. So this is I'd say this is probably at 40, like the high 40s right now in temperature. So it should still have a good bit of coconut on it. So I will say, when I had this on tap, it was served pretty cold, but that's like everywhere because it's in the same cooler as the IPAs, pilsners, whatever. And cold, it was tons of chocolate, not as much coconut. And then when it warmed, the coconut was like huge. So I'm hoping and assuming the cans will be the same. So as you can see, it had a pretty dark head to it, but it dissipated pretty quickly. But that beer is black. It's pretty dark. So the aroma is definitely what I remember. There's not as much coconut in it as you would expect, like seeing the label. But I do remember that picking up as it warms up. But it definitely has coconut, and I know some breweries do stuff they toast the coconut, and I think that makes a significant difference in this. It makes the beer way less oily, it seems like, and it just has a different pronounced flavor and aroma, and there's definitely a lot of dark chocolate on the nose. It almost smells like Hershey syrup, but like dark chocolate Hershey syrup. And there's a little bit of a roasty character in there too. Yeah. It's definitely very similar to what I had on tap. Um, so you get the coconut up front, then it quickly, I don't want to say dissipates, but it quickly kind of submits to the huge rush of dark chocolate. I will say there's so many beers that say they have cacao nibs in them, and other than the ones that taste like almost fake, like the Flying Monkey. I don't even remember what that beer is, but they have one beer that has it's like a chocolate stout that is just like so chocolatey, but it tastes fake. Um, like this tastes more chocolatey than almost any stout with cacao nibs that I've ever had, but it doesn't taste fake at all. I think because one, the beer itself is not very sweet, and it tastes a lot more like dark chocolate than like milk chocolate. Um, so I kind of went over like the flavor profile of the coconut and the cacao nibs, but I will say it's kind of a mid palate thing. It's with the transition. You get the coconut up front, and then and I don't mind this because I like to know that I'm drinking a big beer, but there is a really big wash of alcohol in the middle of it. This is not a beer that I would say, I can't believe that it's this strong. I think it drinks way easier. I would not say that about this. I don't think it's overly boozy. I think it tastes what it should for being 11%, but definitely is not one that I would say like hides the alcohol extremely well. Excuse me. Now the body I really like. Like I said, one, a lot of coconut beers are oily. This is not. It has a really hefty, substantial body without being cloying or just tasting like super sweet and under attenuated. So it almost seems like the perceived sweetness is coming more from the coconut than the actual beer. I actually have a hydrometer. I'm not going to do it on this video because I don't want to waste the time doing it. But I actually have a hydrometer out here. After this video, I might actually take a reading and post what it is on the description. I'm really curious what the final gravity is on this because it doesn't seem like it's super super low, or I mean super super high. But I'm guessing with the sweetness that it does have, it probably is higher than what like your average Imperial Stout, like old school Imperial Stout finishes at. I like the fact that it it has enough carbonation to really drive the flavors, but it's actually on the lower end of carbonation. I think it's just enough to do what it needs to do, but it's low enough to really. It's not prickly at all, and I don't like when stouts are prickly. It's not like that. So I will say if there's one detracting thing about this, it is the alcohol. And then I don't mean like the actual strength of it, but the alcohol taste in it, because it is definitely abundant. It tastes pretty strong. But I think a lot of that is because it's not overly sweet. The sweeter you make a beer, the easier it is to cover up the alcohol. So, but I think this is a really really good beer, and I wish I had more of it. And I don't want to drink them too fast, but I'm curious how long the coconut's gonna last. But especially for a first go with this, I think it's really really impressive. But just as a beer in general, I really really like it, and I absolutely would buy this again. And I can't I can't wait for them to do maybe different variants on this. They also did say that they threw some in barrels, so I think this has enough heft to it that it can hold up to the barrel aging. They might have to throw more coconut in it, to be honest, after it's barrel aged, to have as much coconut in it as flavor as it does now. But I think it'll hold up nicely. It's definitely big enough to do so. So. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. I probably already said it already, but I absolutely would buy this again. And I will blindly buy the next one that they do if it's the same base as this, because I think they have a good base here. If they can find a way to just cover up the alcohol a little bit, it seems like the yeast went a little crazy. There is a tiny bit of almost like a fruity character, which I think maybe the yeast got a little stressed out, 11%, but if they can find a way to dial that in, they're really going to have something awesome on their hands, because the coconut and cacao nib additions are spot on. It's just a really good, clean Imperial Stout. So I think that's all I got on this one. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to do the next one. Thanks.